Darren Rovell from the Action Network with Jay Croucher, the director of trading at PointsBet. Jay, let's talk about some of the games going on this Sunday. Arizona, Seattle, really interesting one, right? So Arizona was undefeated. Now they've fallen and they've lost 2 of 3. They lose to Carolina by 24. They're 2.5-point favorites in a game against Seattle, who gave a goose egg to the Green Bay Packers. Don't really feel great about Russell Wilson. This looks like at least from a square better standpoint, say, hey, come on, Arizona's not that bad. Why just 2.5?
So I think this line is reflecting still some uncertainty around Kyler Murray, whether he will play and then in what state he'll be if he does play. The drop-off from him to Colt McCoy is significant. It's perhaps not as big as some people would expect, just because Colt McCoy is one of the better backups in the league, but still, Kyler to Colt McCoy, that's a 4.5 to 5 point line move. So that's what's being baked here and is keeping the line down. Also think that Wilson, he will look better this week than he did last week. First week back with the finger is a little bit difficult. So expect that Seattle will be much better, certainly offensively, than they were last week.
God, that is a hard game to bet on, especially if you're going to look at recency bias. Green Bay, Minnesota. Green Bay had that 17-0 victory. Green Bay also has 8 in a row against the spread. So they're 1.5-point favorites over Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota has an offense that can certainly score. Where is the money there?
So the money is more on Minnesota, surprisingly. Aaron Rodgers getting less than a field goal. Usually the money would come in on Green Bay, but I think that people have a few concerns about Green Bay's offense with Aaron Jones going down. Rodgers didn't look like Rodgers last week and mentioned afterwards that, he didn't feel 100%. And this Minnesota team is just really solid. They're a better team than their record implies. They've had a lot of gut-wrenching losses. They can clearly score. The defense is probably better than most people give it credit for. And this is their season on the line, really. If they were to lose this, then, the division obviously is probably already gone, but it's definitely gone. And if they want to lock up one of those last 2 spots in the NFC wildcard chase, then these are the games they need to win.
All right, the game that people are going to love, obviously, is the Kansas City Chiefs, now 6-4 against the Dallas Cowboys, 7-2. The Chiefs finally looked like their previous selves last week. So did Mahomes, 41-14 over the Raiders. Dallas, I don't know how you play Dallas these days, but the Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites here. Where's the money here? What are people thinking about this game?
So it's very split, which I think reflects as well, the line and the fact that, 2.5 points. That means that we think that Kansas City are slightly better neutral field than Dallas, but it's very close. But Kansas City getting their offense back on track, that was enough for us to vault KC back up into the elite teams and have this line where it is instead at, perhaps the -1, -1.5 it might have been had they not looked so impressive. I don't think Mahomes is 100% back. He threw a lot of passes up for grabs against Vegas, where he could have easily had 2 or 3 interceptions, but at least he was still getting the big plays again. And the offense looked explosive. It looked back to the offense that it was before this weird mini blip where it looked terrible against, Tennessee, the Giants, and the Packers. It was back to being the offense of the early season where it was extremely efficient, but just being undone by turnovers, just that Vegas didn't catch the turnovers. So yeah, definitely the game of the week. And obviously we'll have big ramifications for the MVP race as well, because if Patrick Mahomes wins this game, then he's right back all of a sudden, bizarrely, in the thick of the MVP conversation.
Yeah, and that would have been a great bet when he was all the way down. Last one, let's do the old Oilers against the new Oilers, Tennessee versus the Texans. This is an interesting one just because, again, from a square perspective, you look at this and you're like, okay, so it's the 8-2 Tennessee Titans against the 1-8 Houston Texans. And you see 10.5. Now, obviously that hook makes it a little bit harder, but you still think, given how the Texans have not been able to cover double-digit spreads, that they certainly, even without Derrick Henry on the Titans side, wouldn't be able to cover here. It seems like the number's too low. Tell me why it's at 10.5.
You don't want to face Tyrod Taylor coming off a bye, Darren. That's when he's at his best. But I think that really this line reflects that we don't think Tennessee are that good. We don't think that they're an 8-2 caliber team that's now got a clear pathway to the 1 seed in the AFC. We think they're good, that they're a solid team, but they're not this elite level team that they've been. And with Henry gone, with Julio Jones gone, saw the limitations of the offense against New Orleans, where, if not for that absurd roughing the passer call that Tannehill gets in the red zone,
It's true. They lose.
New Orleans, they probably win that game. And this New Orleans team isn't a juggernaut. And the fact as well that, that line closed so small at Tennessee -3 over New Orleans, a team quarterbacked by Trevor Siemian, that tells you as well that the market doesn't really respect Tennessee. And that's reflected again this week, where, eventually Tennessee, they have to let down a bit, and they haven't, and they keep defying expectations. But one of these weeks, they will let down.
Got to give you credit. You guys won that game last week by a point. That was amazing. And we talked about how that line, I thought that line looked off last week, and you guys prevailed. So congrats on that. Jay Croucher, the director of trading for PointsBet. Thanks for joining us for another week.
Thanks, Darren.
Make sure you check out all of PointsBet's promotions, including this one for Sunday Night Football.